Of course, we all know there's really no such thing as forever. It is I, Brett Sieber, the host of the FTFL Weekly. You can tell I'm a bit somber today because we've reached a point in the season that I'd rather not have had come. We started this in late August. It is now the first full week of January. The Fantasy Bowl's in the books. The next time we'll see each other is the draft because, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the road for the 2017 FTFL Fantasy Football season. Again, I am Brett Sieber, owner of the Hulkamaniacs, host of the show, and lest to be forgotten, the king of the FTFL. Now, sadly, not your league champ like I was in 2003. No, that honor goes to Ryan Deesum, but there is always next year. And of course, this episode, we're going to start talking a little bit about next year. We'll cover the Give Me One More Chance Bowl. We'll cover the Log Cabin Pizza fiasco, we're going to call it. But we're going to look forward to next year. We're going to go team by team and talk about the best players from this season and how maybe that affects keepers for next year, and just some oddities on things that I was finding on some of the teams as far as who played well and who didn't. We are going to do the last Magic 8 Ball segment of the year as well. And of course, when we're all done, the next time we'll see each other will be on Saturday, August 25th. That, of course, is the draft date. It is always the last Saturday before the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. So, Eric, don't text or call me asking when the draft is. Adam Swart, co-commissioner, so I'm led to believe, don't ask me when the draft is. You know. And this time you actually have a date, August 25th, 2018. Date and time, time and location to be determined. But other than that, that is when we see each other again. All right, on to the games this week. Of course, Bowl Week, Fantasy Bowl Week was last week. We played the third place game. We played the Constellation Championship game. And actually, maybe that was the week before. I take that back. That was the first Championship Week Part 2. This was Give Me One More Chance Bowl Week. John, at the end of the week prior, decided, you know what? I don't want to have 11 months of losing under my belt by the time we get the season going next year. No. I want to end that right now. So he called me out and said, I want you, Hulk of Craps. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't quite know he was talking to me at first because, of course, my team name is the Hulkamaniacs, not the Hulk of Craps. I looked. It isn't anywhere on the website where it actually says that. In all my publications I put out, including all the videos you have watched, and thank you for that, I say Hulkamaniacs. I don't know where you got that. Maybe your phone is missing some buttons. Maybe your thumb when you're texting is too fat. I don't know. I'll accept your apology. This is the Hulkamaniacs. You called me out. I said, sure, let's dance. And dance you did. 67.5 for Team Linkowitz, 52 for the Hulkamaniacs. That means John Linkowitz got off the schneid. I mean, let's be honest, kind of. This isn't any sort of like amazing victory. Although you did beat the king, so you're damn near royalty in my book. But for John, Latavius Murray had the best week of his entire season, 18.5. Jimmy Garoppolo, the right Jimmy, in John's mind. John, I think, saw something in this Jimmy that Sid did not. And he knew from the get-go that he had the right Jimmy in his hands when it came time to the end of the fantasy football season. And he said, that's the Jimmy I'm going to take going forward, not backwards. Will John keep this Jimmy around? That's to be seen. He had 16 points. Alex Collins, 13. Jameis Winston, 26. 26 on the bench. Imagine the season he could have had he not been hurt. Imagine the season Mike Evans could have had Jameis Winston got hurt. But I'm not bitter. For my team, Carlos Hyde, one of his better weeks of the year, 19 points. Brett Hundley, 10.5. Justin Tucker, 10. And Jordan, I traded a second and a fourth round pick away for you. Howard, half a point. It's not going to get it done. That stings. Again, John is off the schneid, and I guess am off, giving more gifts as the king of the FTFL. Next up, a late addition to the slate for last week, the second annual Log Cabin Pizza Bowl. It was, I think, offered and or challenged late and accepted late. That maybe had something to do with the lineup that Saltmarsh submitted. We'll get to that in a moment. Mana, three-time Lucky Pants champ Mana, with 70 points, took down his partner, 26 points, 26 points. I didn't look. That maybe is the lowest point total of the entire season. Marvin Jones, 12 points. Leonard Fournette, 10. Cam Newton, 10. Jeff, again, started the wrong quarterback story of season outside of the David Johnson thing. If you're Saltmarsh, the Pittsburgh defense scored 15 of your 26. That means the other 8 guys combined for 11, including Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins, and Paul Richardson, all notching a 0. I don't know if you entered your lineup late or if you didn't care or both, but that is the worst lineup I've seen since Swartz lineup last week in the Fantasy Bowl. You had 0 chance of winning with all those zeros, and so it goes. You are now no longer, maybe you won last year, but Jeff has the anchovy in his possession, and he shall march forward with it. All right, that wraps up the games. Here we're going to get into the last Magic 8-Ball segment of the year. We've had some fun with this. Of course, it was tarnished by the individual who I think joined in week 4 and touched it and asked it very inappropriate questions in my mind, or in my eyes, I should say. But yeah, it's been fun. I've got 5. This is a kind of a big one here with the Magic 8-Ball. I've got 5 questions we're going to cover, and here we go. Question number 1. Will Ryan Deesum repeat as league champion next year? That would make him, of course, the second 3-time ever champion in the league. Ryan Deesum, it says it is certain. Well, that is just dandy. You know, when you talked about me being in the Give Me One More Chance Bowl, and same with John and his Jimmy, and with Garoppolo and Hundley, maybe that's why you're there. Yeah, it must be nice. It must be nice to just waltz through a season injury-free. Must be just fine, Dan. You could argue, yep, you didn't ever play Andrew Luck and you didn't get him, but since you didn't get him, did it really matter? No. Not only did you not have any injuries, but you also lucked into the single greatest player in fantasy this year. I don't care about the point totals. Alvin Kamara was an absolute game changer. You might have gone undefeated had you played him all season. Maybe I should look that up. I'll start next year with that. Question number 2, will John be able to acquire a keeper with his 5 second-round draft picks? Second-round draft picks are nice. The people in the second round aren't necessarily game breakers. Then again, anyone can kind of be. Just ask Eric. Jay Ajayi didn't quite get there with his number 1 overall pick, so maybe the second round is where it's at. But will John be able to acquire at least a keeper outside of Jimmy Garoppolo? It says signs point to yes. Well, good news, John. You will have at least someone else besides your beloved Jimmy to hold on to when you start next year's draft. Question number 3. Will someone forget the date of the draft, which again is August 25th. It is a Saturday, and of course it is the Saturday before the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. Always will be forever that date. Will someone forget the date of the draft? If this comes out, yes, don't count on it. That would be a first. All right, question number 4. Will Andrew Luck play next year? Now, you think about Ryan Deesum and how he went on to win the title this year without Andrew Luck. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Again, he got lucky. And as of last week, we are going with Deesum is the aforementioned, forget the old team name. The new team name is the Luck Thief. He stole Marxer's luck and beat him. He stole Swartz's luck and beat him. And he stole an entire season of Andrew Luck's career. Ryan Deesum, the Luck Thief. But will Andrew Luck play next year? Not that I think Deesum will keep him. He's going to have his hands full with all sorts of other keepers. It says most likely. Good news, Andrew Luck. If you're watching, I'm sure you are, because we know that Ben Roethlisberger watches. I can't imagine he's kept that secret to himself. Lastly, number 5, will Swart have a new team name? First and foremost, Adam Swart deserves a round of applause for keeping the same team name for what I believe to be the entire season. The people of Middle Spunk Creek, from beginning to end, no changes. It's got to be the first in a long time. Will he have a new team name for next year? It is decidedly so. No surprises there. Now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to go team by team. And we're going to break this down. Top 5 players from each team, along with, I think, maybe an oddity or two that I think is kind of interesting with how things shook out for that team with regards to points. There's some interesting trends here, some that we were aware of as far as quarterbacks and how valuable they are. A lot of the teams, your top 2 players are quarterbacks. But there was a number of defenses and kickers who we often laugh, of course, at Linkowitz for drafting them early. Now, funny, one of Linkowitz's picks panned out as far as kickers and defense. The other one, maybe not so much. But the value that they have might be a little bit higher. Of course, yes, those players are important, but it's all those in-between players, the running backs, receivers, that make or break each week of the season. Here we go. Starting with Mana, 3-time Lucky Pants champ Mana. Number 1 player, Cam Newton, 256. A smooth 60 points ahead of the second place player, Deshaun Watson. Now that's amazing. Deshaun Watson, 192 at number 2 on Jeff's team. He played half a season. He keeps up that pace. He gets 380, and he is by far and away the best player in our league. Jeff has an interesting decision with him. Do you keep Deshaun Watson? Do you not keep Deshaun Watson? Third on Jeff's list, and this probably is no surprise to Jeff, Marcus Mariota at 184. Jeff couldn't get the right quarterback in his lineup often from week to week. No surprise that the top 3 players are quarterbacks as he tried to figure out and juggle who was going to play. Number 4, LaShawn McCoy, who he acquired in the Antonio Brown trade, 173.5. And number 5, Leonard Fournette with 162. Leonard Fournette, pretty solid rookie season. Not far, of course, behind McCoy, so Jeff's got him as well. I mean, if you're looking at keepers, you've got McCoy, you've got Fournette, you've got David Johnson, you've got Deshaun Watson. You've got decisions. John's got draft picks. Maybe, just maybe, you can help him out. And speaking of David Johnson, he was your 16th best player, oddly enough, ahead of Mike Williams from the Chargers, who played more games. Let that sink in. 9 points. What could have been for Jeff Markser and his lucky pants. Onwards to the Pack Attack. No surprise, is the absolute best player in the league this year, Russell Wilson, 322. 322. And so much of that came in fourth quarters of games as Russell Wilson is just spinning around, throwing the ball into the air, often shot putting it between his legs, eyes closed, fingers crossed, whatever. That guy is a clown. He's a bum. And I'd also say lacks talent. But whatever. Drew Brees, 228, almost a clean 100 points behind Russell Wilson. And oddly enough, he didn't play much this year. You think about what Drew Brees has been to fantasy football, outside of course, the infamous second-round pick someone gave up for him. What a buffoon that guy was. What an idiot. I can't believe it. Boy, just dumb. Dumbest thing I've ever heard of. But he didn't have to play him because, of course, he had Russell Wilson. Aha! Here we have our first, I guess we'll call anomaly, but then maybe not. Harrison Butker comes in third on Eric's team with 166. Jarvis Landry also 166. Philly's defense 163. Eric is not the only team to have a kicker and a defense in his top 5. I look at number 13 on Eric's list, though, down to 82 points. Half of what his kicker got was his number 1 pick in the draft this year, Jay Ajayi, 82 points. AJ Green, on the other hand, 151.5. That is a 70-point difference. Thank you very much, Eric. On to probably one of the most roller coaster seasons in the league, Sid and the Boat folks. Number 1, Tom Brady, 288, the second highest score in the league. Only 2 points behind him, though. Todd Gurley, 286. And I talked about how 100 of those points came between 14, 15, and 16. Fantasy playoff weeks. Sid Hagen, you had it. If you could have just snuck in, you would have caused all sorts of damage. John Linkowitz, you blew it. You didn't get enough. You gave him up. You quit. Well, I don't even know if I'd if I'd accept 5 second-round picks for Todd Gurley at this point. No way, no how with the season that guy had and the trajectory that team seems to be on. Sid's third best, Jacksonville defense, 221, who I'll point out again, were on Swart's team after the draft. He did drop them before the season started. Yet another one of a long list of moves that might land Swart on the seat. That's for later. Number 4, you guys are going to love this, Josh McCown, 198. Number 5, Melvin Gordon, 193, and then number 7 was Michael Thomas, 198. Of course, Gurley, Gordon, and Thomas, all 3 acquired by Hagen. I don't see him keeping Tom Brady. Todd Gurley, yep. Melvin Gordon, probably. Michael Thomas, maybe up for trade. Josh McCown, maybe he just wants... No. You shouldn't. Just like you should have never started him when you did, but you did. And look where you are, possibly and most likely on the toilet bowl seat because of your action. That was your season. Sid Hagen. Next up, the Hulkamaniacs, king of the FTFL, and of course, my team. Number 1 player, Carson Wentz, 288, missed the last couple weeks of the season. How lucky was I to have him on the bench when Rodgers went down? Of course, it still didn't get me anywhere because he got hurt in the one game in the playoffs, and then, yep, well, we know what happened. Number 2, Baltimore's defense, my pickup before week 1 at 181. Number 3, Justin Tucker, my kicker at 166. That is probably more of a picture as to why my team didn't get it done. Then again, I was 5-1. I finished the season 2-8. 2-9 if you want to count the loss to John. It all fell apart when Rodgers got hurt. I was never able to fully recover because really I wasn't getting a lot of help from other positions besides my kicker and my defense. AJ Green, number 4, 151.5. Carlos Hyde, 149.5 at number 5. Bilal Powell, he was my second pick? I don't know. I picked him and Hyde. And I'm like, I didn't hope to go into the season counting on the Jets and the Niners' offensive prowess, and I should have known better. Bilal Powell, 99.5 points. Not getting it done, and that is why, of course, I finished in 6th place. The pit of misery, dilly, of course, a name change early on in the season for Andy's team. Lots of injuries early on. Let's see how the top 5 fared. Kirk Cousins, 280, not far off of the Tom Brady pace. Ben Roethlisberger, number 2 at 260. Le'Veon Bell, number 3, 232.5. One of the higher scoring running backs in the league. He will probably be a keeper for Andy going into next year. Andy almost traded him a couple times this year, but he held on to him. Probably good for Andy, so he has something to build on for next year. Number 4, Ryan Suckup, yet another kicker in the top 5. Again, John is just smiling at home, laughing, saying, I told you all. 161 for Suckup. Alshon Jeffrey, 132.5, and of course that definitely goes along with the development Carson Wentz showed this year. Amari Cooper, number 8 score, 116, also a first-round pick. A lot of those guys in the first round just didn't pan out. Heed the warning, John. 5 second-round picks might get you a seat if you blow it. Because remember, just one of those got me Drew Brees, and that got me the seat. Imagine the damage you could do with 5. Radioactive Monkeys coming up here next off. Of course, Adam Sommers also had a kind of a roller coaster season. Sold, had this massive fire sale that turned into be more of like a one teeny tiny match that smoldered a tad. Did dump Gordon and Thomas in a trade that maybe was a bit lopsided, not in his favor. Alex Smith, great season for him, fantasy-wise, 278. DeAndre Hopkins at 204. Great season for him as a receiver, one of the top receivers. Matt Ryan comes in at 202 and is number 3. Tyreek Hill, 171.5. Now, I know you're giving me a lot of hard time about Tyreek Hill. So many of those points were on big touchdowns. Then again, that's what Tyreek Hill kind of does. Will you keep him? You traded a second-round pick away from him. Will you keep Tyreek Hill, or will you try to trade him away? John seems to, maybe he's interested. I don't know. Chris Boswell, yet another kicker, 164, comes in at number 5. Salty's defenses were 6 and 7 on the list, and yet another kicker at number 9, meaning he had 4 players in his top 10 that were either kickers or defenses. I'm not saying, but I'm kind of saying. Speaking of a guy who likes to draft kickers early, John Linkowitz. Jameis Winston, again, his highest score, 192. John is the only team to not have a player above 200 points on his team, hence the 11-game losing streak that, yes, did end, John. Good for you. You did win. Stephen Gostkowski, John's early draft pick, 176. And you can say, well, look, he was my second highest score. Right, but you didn't have anyone over 200, so you got to fix that. Alex Collins, a late season pickup, came in at 109. 109 was third place. 109. If I'm looking through this list here, John, I am... Oh, wait. Take that back. That was your own one. To have your third place player, John, at 109, no one's fifth place player was even close to that. Yet again, why you're on this list. John, your fifth place player was Mitch Trubisky with 100 points. Smushed in between was Latavius Murray with 103. Now remember, 18.5 of that, almost a fifth of that came this last week. Josh Doxson was a keeper. He got you 82.5 points. Now, a rookie keeper, but nonetheless, you maybe could have gotten someone better than him with that pick. Just an altogether forgettable season along with the last two, which is why you might find yourself on the seat. Next up, Ryan Deason and his old, shriveled, dusty, pungent odor. Cat won't even come near you because it smells that awful. Titties and balls. Lots to like here. Then again, I think he got kind of lucky, although the lucky part comes in play. Well, of course he got lucky. He's the luck thief. Phillip Rivers, 270, late season pickup. The man right beneath him, though, at 240, Phillip Rivers had 270, by the way, was Dak Prescott. That's right. You're welcome. Dak Prescott at 240. Alvin Kamara, 212.5, followed by Mark Ingram at 2-1. The only guy to have two running backs that were above 200 points. Matt Bryant, his kicker, another kicker in the top 5, came in 169. Jordy, I kept you, Nelson. If you think about DSIM's keepers, Andrew Luck, 0 points. Jordy Nelson, 80.5 points. That's lower than Mitch Trubisky. That's lower, by the way, by 1 point than John's rookie keeper, Josh Doxson. And yet somehow, and I know how, it was luck. It's always luck. You still won the Fantasy Bowl. Good Lord. Pops, people of Middle Spunk Creek, the second to last team we're going to cover here. Not the greatest season. Again, kind of fumbled and backed his way into the division title, into a Fantasy Bowl, and of course had to deal with injuries. And then there's the Kareem Hunt trade as well that really bogged down most of your season. Andy Dalton, 224. Derek Carr, 220 or 1 and 2. Number 3, 212.5. Kareem Hunt. Now, so much of that was front loaded. That guy had almost 100 points in the first 3 weeks of the season, and then just did over 100 points over the next 13. So yeah, not all that great. Kind of save face. We'll see. I'm guessing you'll keep him, but then again, you've got Antonio Brown sitting there as well. He had 206.5. Greg Legatron Zerline, 185. Yet another kicker in the top 5. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Should we be valuing them more? Maybe. With the way our scoring is set up, they're probably worth more as our quarterbacks, which we knew. But kickers, my goodness, are really showing their worth here. Only one player on John's team was higher than Greg Zerline, a kicker's point total. Yeah, I know, Sid, you had it all, you lost it, you got it all back, you traded it away. That seems seat-worthy. But John, just looking at the sheer data and the numbers and comparing it to others, complete ineptitude and lack of ability to run a successful fantasy football franchise. My goodness. Martavis Bryant, 116.5. No, actually, I take that back. That was Des Bryant. That's the second time I've said Martavis. I get whatever. Des Bryant, number 9. Now, you remember just a couple years ago, Swart was taking nothing less than 2 firsts for Des Bryant. I'll be curious to see what he's asking for him this offseason, although he is by no means a keeper anymore, let alone sometimes even a starting receiver. Lastly, the architect. Matt, looking at your team, Matt Stafford, 276. Big year for Stafford, followed by Jared Goff, 258. Who knew that Jared Goff was going to have such a year? The Rams defense was 173. Another defense in the top 5. Oh, Jake Elliott, 145. Sorry, Jake Elliott. That's Salty's kicker. Ezekiel Elliott. I'm still trying, I'm struggling with it being the end. I'm struggling with just, the holiday season, the bitter cold. I'm kind of just, whatever. Ezekiel Elliott had 145 on the season. That's good enough for the 10th best running back in our league, and he missed 6 weeks. Again, Matt, you have to kind of wonder what might have been. And that's not the only what might have been as far as running back. Brandon Cooks, 142.5, rounds out the top 5. DeMarco Murray, who had some moments early but didn't live up to his potential, 113.5. Kenyon Drake. Now, DeMarco Murray was your 11th highest scorer. Kenyon Drake was your 13th highest scorer. He had 98. By the way, those 98 points came in 8 games. If you extrapolate that out, that's 196. And he all of a sudden is a top flight running back. I said this a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. I don't remember. But between Ezekiel Elliott, Devontae Freeman, DeMarco Murray, and Kenyon Drake, John, that's the guy I maybe talk to. None of those guys are Todd Gurley, but you need a running back, and Matt has some to deal. All right. That does it for the team wrap-ups. I mean, again, lots of high spots, some low spots, some questions, some weirdness. We're going to get into the stud, the dud, the last decent update of the year, and then we shall say goodbye. Stud of the week has to be Latavius Murray, 18 points, got John off the schneid. That's 3 times his average for the entire season, weekly output. And so, yeah, he had a big week when he needed it the most. Excuse me, get some water here. Go Bucky. Jordan Howard, You were the dud just a couple weeks ago. I don't think that's great. Half a point. I traded a second and a fourth. I needed you. Nope, half a point. And with that, the last decent update. Why not me again? Why not me? You gave it to me for trading away a second round pick for Drew Brees. Drew freaking Brees. Jordan Howard can't even tie Drew Brees' shoes. And I gave up more. Thank God for John. Thank God for Sid. Thank God for the Kareem Hunt trade. Then again, if we were to do a vote by proxy and allow Joe Hagan to vote, he'd probably vote for me anyways. You know what? That's enough. That's enough ranting. I guess I'm bitter. That's it. That's the final one. What an odyssey. What an adventure. I enjoy doing this. This is so much fun for me. I'm glad that each and every one of you enjoy it too. I know you don't all watch it maybe every week. I hope you saw enough of them and laughed and had some fun with it. I had fun with it. Until next year though, and I should say until August 25th. One last time, the draft. Saturday, August 25th. Everyone should be there. Wouldn't it be great if all 10 guys showed up at the draft in person? I don't remember the last time that's happened, if it has ever happened. Let's make it happen. Put it on your calendar. Make it work. And I know, Andy, you're like, well, that's the weekend of my daughter's birthday. It sure is. So figure something out. Make it work. Make it happen. Because for now, we have reached, finally, the end of the road. Goodbye, my friends. This is Brett Stieber signing off for the last time of the 2017 FTFL season. Peace!